This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, December 6th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Learning more about this week's New York City killing of United Healthcare's CEO.
Brian was a wonderful person.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The Secret Service's acting director is vowing big changes in the agency's culture and operations. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A powerful earthquake shook parts of California.
There was still strong shaking that occurred.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
Putting time limits on the use of anesthesia for surgical procedures.
This was scaring a lot of people. People were outraged.
I'm Bob Brown. That story coming up.
On Wall Street, it's a Jobs Friday. Investors are going to go through those November employment report numbers coming this morning. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The House shut down Democrats' efforts to release the long-awaited ethics report into former Representative Matt Gaetz. Norman Hall, Washington.
All ahead on America in the Morning. More details are being learned about the killing of the United Healthcare CEO in the middle of New York City. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
NYPD releasing new surveillance photos of the person wanted in the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson as he was walking to a conference at the Hilton Hotel. The images show a full face of the suspect, and lead investigators are now doubling down on what they said was evident right away.
Every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
The identity and the motive of the shooter not clear at this point, and no arrests have been made, but police believe the shooter may have been experienced with guns.
It does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly.
There were reportedly messages left on the bullet casings found at the scene reading defend, deny, and depose.
The shooter then flees on foot northbound into an alleyway between 54th Street and 55th Street. Once at West 55th Street, the shooter continues to walk westbound on Avenue of the Americas, where he gets onto an electric e-city bike and rides northbound on the Avenue of Americas towards Central Park.
Thompson's family devastated.
Brian was a wonderful person with a big heart and who lived life to the fullest. He will be greatly missed by everybody.
His wife, Paulette Thompson, spoke with KARE-TV in Minnesota, where the family lives.
Our hearts are broken and we are completely devastated by this news.
Police still searching for a suspect, and questions emerging nationwide about security for CEOs of big companies. Thompson reportedly had a security detail, but it wasn't present when he was killed. I'm Clayton Neville.
Police announced the suspected shooter rode a Greyhound bus for 17 hours from Atlanta to New York 10 days before the shooting and stayed at a hotel using a fake ID, paying with cash. A House hearing into lapses of security by the Secret Service and their vow of culture change after the summer attempt on Donald Trump's life went off the rails when the agency's acting director and a GOP congressman began screaming at each other. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, Congressman, were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect for a Secret Service member that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question, please.
You are out of line, Congressman.
Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing politics.
I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer the question.
On our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order.
The Secret Service's acting director is vowing big changes in the agency's culture and operations after the Pennsylvania assassination attempt against Donald Trump.
Interviews with Secret Service agents revealed the area was never secured because agents mistakenly believed that state and local officials planned to secure it.
Ronald Rowe says it was an abject failure, and he's taking action.
We are reorganizing and reimagining this organization.
But as he appeared before a bipartisan House task force, panel members pushed Rowe on how so many things went wrong, like a drone operator unable to get his drone to work and a counter-sniper positioned behind a tree.
Yet nobody said anything.
Democrat Jason Crow and a fellow veteran, Republican Mark Green.
Apathy and complacency, period.
Rowe says when he was a protective agent, everyone felt empowered to speak up when something wasn't right.
I don't know where we lost that.
He says there's now a bigger emphasis on training.
In the course of our investigation, some interviews with Secret Service personnel included expressions of regret, while others took defiant stances blaming colleagues for their failures. Several Secret Service agents interviewed by the task force have either already left the agency or have been placed on a status called situational telework, where they are not allowed to contribute to the core duty of protection.
The panel's public report on the shooting will be out next week. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. And now, during our Cyber Week sale, save 20% on most Sleep Number smart beds, plus free home delivery with any base. Limited time. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. Anthem Blue Cross-Blue Shield calls off controversial policy. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. After days of dry weather, expect a change in the Pacific Northwest. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Strong high pressure sitting over the west for days on end has deflected the storm track into Canada, meaning a rather quiet pattern for the most part. And even through today, the core of high pressure remains potent over the northern Rockies. However, this feature will get just enough of a push to the south and east to eventually allow a new storm to push into the Pacific Northwest, with some showers over western Washington by the end of the day. These showers are expected to build into some steadier rain overnight, with Saturday likely to take precipitation as far east as western Montana and as far south as northwestern California. Rain and mountain snow are likely there into the start of the weekend, but California and southern Oregon may dry out on Sunday. Dry conditions persist from central and southern California through the Intermountain West and the northern and central plains today, but the tail end of a cold front tracking mainly across the Florida peninsula will be capable of sparking some showers, not only there, but over parts of Texas, mainly near the border with Mexico, where there can be some thunderstorms as well, but perhaps also extending into far southeastern New Mexico. A rather dry Friday is also in store for the remainder of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic states. More active conditions do continue today from the Great Lakes into interior sections of the Northeast, where a new round of lake effect snow gets underway off Lake Ontario this afternoon. Through Saturday, up to a foot of snow can accumulate to the south and east of Lake Ontario, with at least 1 to 3 inches of snow expected east of there into central New York, as well as off Lake Erie into parts of western New York to the south of Buffalo and a portion of northwestern Pennsylvania, with even some localized lake effect areas in Michigan. In Seattle, mostly cloudy skies give way to evening rain with a high of 52. For Oklahoma City, look for sunshine and some clouds with a high of 52 there as well. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A strong earthquake off the California coast rattled nerves and sent tsunami warnings along the west coast. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The 7.0 magnitude offshore quake had localized but minimal damage. The quake was felt as far as south of San Francisco, where residents felt a rolling motion for several seconds. It was followed by smaller aftershocks.
It was located offshore, which is good news in terms of the shaking intensities, because the farther away you are from an earthquake, the less the shaking will be.
Elizabeth Cochran with the U.S. Geological Survey says some Northern California cities did feel the quake.
There was still strong shaking that occurred in the local nearby areas of the cities of Eureka and Rio Del and Fortuna. So we may see some damage from the shaking to those areas.
There were no immediate reports of major damage or injury.
We're concerned about damage, particularly in the northern part of the state, in Del Norte and Mendocino in Humboldt County. As a consequence of that, I just signed off on a state of emergency declaration.
The NWS did issue a tsunami warning after the earthquake, but that has since been canceled. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Imagine you need to have surgery, but then you find out there's a time limit on the use of anesthesia during your procedure. That happened to some insured by Anthem Blue Cross-Blue Shield until Outrage got the decision reversed. Bob Brown reports, audio courtesy WFSB-TV Hartford, Connecticut.
Anthem Blue Cross-Blue Shield in Connecticut said it would no longer cover the cost of anesthesia if surgery exceeds a certain time limit. Not surprisingly, there has been a public backlash about the decision, including the American Society of Anesthesiologists. WFSB-TV in Hartford reporting the insurer had based the move on surgery time metrics from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The decision would cover plans not only in Connecticut, but New York and Missouri as well. Connecticut State Comptroller Sean Scanlon.
This was scaring a lot of people. People were outraged, but they were really concerned about this policy. And I think the story of them reversing it is really about the story of people speaking up, using their voice, and knowing that that voice still really matters in Connecticut.
Anthem Blue Cross-Blue Shield on Thursday reversing its decision on limiting anesthesia for surgical procedures. The policy change coming a day after the CEO of United Healthcare was gunned down in New York City. The incident drawing closer attention to the insurer's reversal on the issue. I'm Bob Brown.
In sports, in the NFL from Thursday Night Football, the Detroit Lions defeated the Green Bay Packers 34-31. When we return on America in the Morning, slick moves on oil prices. That and more part of Friday Business Headlines after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a modest pullback for stocks yesterday from record highs. Big tech's had a pretty good week.
Yes, migrating back in that direction. NASDAQ 100's up like 2.5% this week.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Today is a Jobs Friday. The November employment report comes from the Labor Department at 8:30 Eastern. And CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman says these data could take a while to understand.
One, you have the hurricanes bounce back. Two, you have the strike bounce back. On the other hand, we're not seeing a whole lot of firing out there. You have what we're hearing. This is apparently the second lowest hiring for the holiday season in many years. It is going to be enormously complicated.
Meantime, slightly more people than expected applied for unemployment benefits last week, but that number remains right at the pre-pandemic weekly average. Bitcoin hit the $100,000 mark and held there for a while after Fed Chair Jerome Powell likened it to gold, a store of value, instead of saying something negative about it. Low-cost airline Frontier going to figure out how to make more money with its planes. It's going to add a first-class section, knowing people will pay more to sit up front. Chi-Chi's Restaurants could be making a comeback. It was a popular chain in the 1990s. USA Today says they're going to open again. Disney making its stock more attractive to people who like to buy stocks that pay dividends.
Disney raising its dividend by 33% to $1 a share payable to shareholders of record as of December 16th.
CNBC's Silvana Hanau. President-elect Trump campaigned on a drill baby drill platform, but right now there's too much oil on the market for the demand out there. Even OPEC Plus just decided not to increase production because that's going to push prices down.
Trump wants lower oil prices. A number of his senior officials, incoming members of the administration, have talked about $50 oil. But is that good for U.S. producers? They're running on drill, baby, drill. But these companies also don't want to drill themselves out of business.
RBC's Halima Croft on CNBC. Oil sitting around $68 a barrel this morning. Prices at the pump keep falling. Americans like that. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular this morning is $3.03. 2/3 of all U.S. states enjoying gas right now at under $2.99 a gallon on average. On today's watch list, a Jobs Friday, we do get those jobs numbers from the Labor Department. We also get the latest on consumer credit and consumer sentiment. The Mega Millions jackpot tonight, well above $500 million at $579 million.
That's a lot of money. Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return, House Ethics Committee rules on former congressman when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Along party lines, the U.S. House has voted not to release the ethics report of former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
The House shut down Democrats' efforts to release the long-awaited ethics report into former Representative Matt Gaetz that pushes the fate of any resolution of the years-long investigation of sexual misconduct allegations into further uncertainty. The nearly party-line vote came after Democrats had been pressing for the findings to be published, even though the Florida Republican left Congress and withdrew as President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General. Speaker Mike Johnson said the release would be a terrible precedent to set. But Illinois Democrat Sean Casten argued that Republicans were sweeping credible allegations of sexual misconduct under the rug. Norman Hall, Washington.
A former United States Senator will become the next U.S. ambassador to China. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped David Perdue to take the post, saying the 74-year-old former CEO of Dollar General and Georgia senator brings valuable expertise to help build our relationship with China. The appointment comes amid threats by Trump to impose additional tariffs on Chinese goods unless Beijing does more to stop the trafficking of the addictive narcotic fentanyl. America in the Morning for Friday, December 6th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Pete Hegseth meets with senators to save his nomination for defense secretary as Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy talk Doge with Republicans. I'm John Stolnitz in Washington.
More lake effect snow hammering parts of the North and Great Lakes. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Justice Department's accusing Memphis police of using excessive force and targeting black people. I'm Jackie Quinn.
2 kindergartners shot in California. A judge says no to Boeing. And American and Russian military leaders sit down for a phone call. We'll tell you why.
The FBI issues a warning not to send text messages. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning on this first Friday of December. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has a check of the national forecast.
Behind a powerful Alberta clipper that brought strong winds, some snow, and even some heavier squalls to parts of the Northeast on Thursday, today brings the associated Arctic cold front all the way through Florida, where there can be some showers. While temperatures will not dip to the level of bitterly cold across the Sunshine State, a zone from the upper Midwest through New England and southward to the central Gulf Coast can expect temperatures at least 5 to 15 degrees below historical averages today. Places such as Jackson, Mississippi may fail to reach 50 degrees today for the first time since late January. The cold air in place over the region brings a continued risk for lake effect snow off the northernmost Great Lakes for much of the day, but after a bit of a lull this morning, the afternoon brings a renewed push of snow to the east of Lakes Erie and Ontario as well. The greatest snow totals from this round of snow are expected to the north and east of Syracuse, New York, where up to a foot of new snow can pile up through the start of the weekend. The eastern shores of Lakes Erie and Superior can pick up to 6 inches of new snow, with 1 to 3 inches of snow in northern lower Michigan and the far northwestern upper peninsula of Michigan. Otherwise, rain and some embedded thunder expand across west and especially south Texas today as a disturbance centered over the southwest continues to funnel in moisture. While a large portion of the precipitation may stay close to the border with Mexico, some spots can have a rather rainy end to the work week across the lower Rio Grande Valley. Most of the rest of the nation looks dry today, with zones of high pressure centered over both Arkansas and the interior northwest providing rain-free conditions. A new storm will finally push through the high pressure to bring some showers to western Washington by day's end, evolving into steady rain tonight. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. As Donald Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth continues to meet with U.S. Senators, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy spent the day on Capitol Hill discussing their plans to remake the federal government. John Stolnitz has more from Washington.
After meeting with Republican senators again yesterday, Hegseth told reporters he had good conversations about the vision he and President-elect Trump have for the Department of Defense.
No more social justice, politically correct approaches to how we fight and conduct wars. This is about lethality, meritocracy, readiness, war fighting, and accountability.
With media reports swirling about past affairs, alleged improper treatment of women, and problems with alcohol, Hegseth says he's answered every question senators have posed to him.
No, we've had great conversations about who I am and what I believe, and frankly, the man I am today, because of my faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and my incredible wife, Jenny, right here. I'm a different man than I was years ago.
Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal says 5 to 10 Republican senators have secretly told him they're waiting for the right opportunity to say no, telling CNN someone with a history of alcohol problems should not be Secretary of Defense.
It is a threat to our national security. This official is the one who's called in the middle of the night, like Secretary Austin was. There's a Chinese balloon going over America. Should we shoot it down? You don't want someone who is impaired or incapacitated.
Republican Senator Mike Rounds, who serves on the Armed Services Committee, described his meeting with Hegseth as positive.
Pete Hegseth went a long way today, in my opinion, in getting my full support. But I want him to be able to answer in front of everybody else the questions that are there and to do a good job on it. And that was my advice to him, was come prepared. Be prepared to answer the questions.
Meanwhile, Musk and Ramaswamy met with House and Senate Republicans yesterday, listening to lawmakers' ideas for making the federal government less costly and more effective. House Speaker Mike Johnson says members were excited to hear from them.
It's a new thing, and this is a new day in Washington and a new day in America.
As for Trump's pick to head the FBI, Kash Patel, Republican Senator John Cornyn told the Hugh Hewitt Show Patel likely has the votes needed for confirmation.
Yes, he will be. People I have great respect for, people like Trey Gowdy, have recommended him highly.
John Stolness, Washington.
Just when you thought the deluge was ending, more lake-effect snow in parts of the North and Great Lakes region is back for another round. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports. Audio courtesy of WBAY-TV, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
The 1 to 3 inches I thought is what we were getting, and woke up and it was probably 6 inches and maybe more in some spots with the drifts, but a little more work cut out than expected.
It's worse than I thought it was driving into town because I came from Greenville. Going over the viaducts, it was really slippery. Do not slam on the brakes and just kind of go with the flow. Otherwise, you'll be doing donuts.
Take your time. Don't use your cruise control. Don't slam on your brakes, and just slow down. Don't tailgate people, and just take your time.
Parts of the Great Lakes region have seen 3 to 5 feet of snow in recent days. As the week ends, winter storm warnings, lake effect snow warnings, even blizzard warnings cover portions of 10 states.
If you have no place to sleep this evening, you're welcome here. You will have a warm, safe place. You have a food that warms your belly.
Rose Sterling helps operate a shelter in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and spoke with WBOY-TV.
We just welcome everyone that needs a place to stay.
Pittsburgh saw thunder snow this week as the front passed by. Parts of Maryland and Ohio witnessed lightning and conditions across the region deteriorating.
Getting this much all at once, it's been the hardest part.
These residents spoke with 19 News in Cleveland.
I've been helping one neighbor out down the street. And my neighbors up the street, they got bogged down, so I went up and I plowed them out.
A final push for the winter blast. Scattered snow showers expected today, but as the weekend wears on, the weather's expected to bring more calm to the Great Lakes region and other parts of the north. I'm Clayton Neville.
Nearly 2 years in the making, following the beating death of Tyree Nichols, and a scathing report of the investigation into the Memphis Police Department has been released. Correspondent Jackie Quinn has details.
Let me be clear. These tactics do not make Memphis safer.
The Justice Department's accusing Memphis police of using excessive force and unfairly targeting Black people, including children.
Misconduct that we observe offends the dignity of Memphis residents. It creates stigma and trauma.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Kristen Clark says some officers in the Memphis Police Department have been violating residents' civil and constitutional rights.
We found that the police in Memphis use excessive force. that they stop, search, and arrest people unlawfully, that their policies have a discriminatory effect on Black people, and that they discriminate against people with behavioral health disabilities.
One example, after a string of dollar store robberies.
For example, police detained a Black man outside of a dollar store and struck him in the leg with a baton and pepper sprayed him in the face. Dollar stores in the area had seen a spate of robberies, but police had no reason to suspect that this man had anything to do with them.
She warns of legal intervention if the city doesn't clean up the department. This investigation follows the 2023 beating death of motorist Tyree Nichols. I'm Jackie Quinn.
When America in the Morning continues, still up in the air, Congress mulls additional fees for airline passengers. That and more after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Police are piecing together exactly what happened after 2 kindergartners were wounded in a shooting at a small religious school near Oroville, California. Following the story, correspondent Jennifer King.
There were 2 students who sustained gunshot wounds. Both boys, 1 5, 1 6, both attended the school and were in kindergarten.
A gunman is dead and 2 kindergarten-age boys are hospitalized in critical condition in Northern California after a shooting at the Feather River School of Seventh-day Adventists in Palermo. Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey.
We have received some information that leads us to believe that the subject responsible for this shooting targeted this school because of its affiliation with the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Honey said the gunman had no prior connection to the victims. He was dropped off at the tiny Christian school by an Uber driver for what was described as a cordial meeting with an administrator about enrolling a child there. 6th grader Jocelyn Orlando told CBS News Sacramento they were heading in for lunch recess when they heard shooting and people screaming. The sheriff says the gunman's body and a handgun were found near playground equipment on school grounds.
Appears to have a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The highway patrol officer located a handgun near that individual's body and secured that firearm.
Audio courtesy KRCR. I'm Jennifer King.
A judge has rejected a Boeing plea deal regarding their 737 MAX airplanes. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The deal the judge rejected would have allowed Boeing to plead guilty to a federal conspiracy charge and pay a fine for misleading U.S. regulators about the 737 MAX jetliner before 2 of the planes crashed. The crash has killed 346 people. U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor said diversity, inclusion, and equity policies in the government and at Boeing could result in race being a factor in picking an official to oversee Boeing's compliance with the plea deal. O'Connor said DEI policies undermine confidence in the government and in Boeing's ethics and anti-fraud efforts. Boeing and the Justice Department have 30 days to let the judge know how they plan to proceed. I'm Mike Hempen.
There was a rare phone call made between the top American and Russian military officers. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has details.
The top American and Russian military officers have made rare contact amid high tensions between Washington and Moscow. Russia's defense ministry says General Staff Chief Valery Gerasimov called Joint Chiefs Chairman C.Q. Brown last week to give advance warning of Russian naval drills in the Mediterranean. The ministry says it was intended to prevent possible incidents given U.S. and NATO warships in the vicinity. It was the first call between the 2 generals since Brown became chairman 14 months ago. The Pentagon says they also discussed the Ukraine war. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
After this week's Capitol Hill hearing into junk fees, correspondent Rita Foley reports on a Biden administration push for new consumer protections for airline passengers.
The Biden administration says it will take steps toward requiring airlines to pay cash compensation and cover lodging and meals for passengers who get stranded when an airline causes flights to be canceled or changed. This would go far beyond the current requirement for airlines to pay ticket refunds. The industry trade group Airlines for America said the Biden administration's proposal would just drive up ticket prices. The group calling the proposal ill-conceived and rushed. But with just a few weeks until President Biden leaves office, the fate of additional regulations on airlines will be left in the hands of the incoming Trump administration. I'm Rita Foley.
The FBI is issuing a warning not to send text messages containing any sensitive information, as all of the cellular networks are likely still compromised. America in the Morning's Chuck Palm has today's tech report.
In a statement, an FBI official issued a warning related to the Salt Typhoon Chinese hacker attack from earlier this year. He said the cyber actors have compromised networks of multiple telecom companies and have the ability to enable multiple activities. An alert was issued by the FBI, the CISA, and NSA, as well as the other Five Eyes agencies on Tuesday, and a briefing was issued to U.S. senators about the extent of the hacks and exactly how compromised the networks were. The U.S. senators have vowed action. You can download a third-party messenger app like Signal or Telegram, both who offer end-to-end encryption. Apple is releasing an update to the version 16 phone to allow you to switch to a different default messenger. A good practice is to use an end-to-end encrypted app when sending any sensitive data online. For more tech news, follow me on X @ChuckPalm.
Friday is here, and here with sports, our Robert Workman.
NFL Week 14 kicked off with a dandy in Detroit last night. The Lions nipped the Packers 34-31 for their 11th consecutive victory. That's a franchise record. Detroit had a 10-point lead at halftime, but the second half went back and forth with 4 lead changes before Jake Bates ended it with a 35-yard field goal at the gun. Coach Dan Campbell says the offense came through.
You know, we knew they were going to need to carry the load. You need to carry a little bit more of the backpacks and such, and man, we did that. You know, they did that, stepped up in a big way, and it was a number of guys really made plays for us across the board.
College football conference championship weekend begins tonight as Boise State takes on UNLV for the Mountain West Championship. The American Conference Final has Army facing Tulane. Saturday starts with the Big 12 title game between Arizona State and Iowa State. Then it's the SEC showdown between number 2 Texas and 5th-ranked Georgia. Under the lights, we get undefeated number 1 Oregon against number 3 Penn State for the Big 10 crown and the ACC Championship between SMU and Clemson. The final college football playoff poll comes out Sunday afternoon. NBA, the Cavaliers dunked the Nuggets 126-114 to become the first team to 20 wins this season. Cleveland 13-1 at home. The West-leading Thunder rolled over the Raptors. Bulls got 39 from Nikola Vucevic to kick off the Spurs. Mavericks manhandled the Wizards. Luka Doncic with a triple-double. Washington has lost 16 in a row. That ties the franchise record, which they set last year. Knicks nailed the Hornets. That's Charlotte's 7th loss in a row. Pelicans snap a 9-game slide with a win over the Suns. Warriors and Grizzlies also win. And another top 10 upset in college basketball as 8th-ranked Purdue falls at Penn State. And baseball's winter meetings are coming up next week in Dallas. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, Swift. That's how this new book is selling. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Singer Taylor Swift isn't just a hit on stage. She also now has a top-selling book. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Taylor Swift's Eras Tour book sold 814,000 copies since its release on Friday, according to Circana, which tracks about 85% of the print market. It's the biggest publishing launch of the year. What's remarkable is that the book did not even have a full week of sales and that it was sold only through one outlet, Target. Some fans complain the book has typos and other errors. Representatives for Target and for Swift did not return requests for comment. Swift's Eras Tour will wrap up Sunday in Vancouver after more than 150 shows over nearly 2 years. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
A new movie mixes 90s nostalgia with the robot apocalypse. Kevin Carr has a weekend sneak peek at Y2K.
Every generation has its all-night teen movie, from American Graffiti and 16 Candles to Can't Hardly Wait and Superbad. Now millennial nostalgics are getting their chance with Y2K.
We are experiencing major problems as a result of the Y2K breakdown.
The story follows a high school misfit in 1999 attending a New Year's Eve party where he hopes to finally kiss the girl of his dreams.
Any lucky lady gonna get the midnight kiss?
However, when the Y2K bug executes at midnight and the machines start a violent revolt, the partying teens must try to survive.
Someone's on the net?
I'm all for the genre mix-up we get in this film. However, the movie fails to commit to either one.
Oh, snap!
The all-night party film half of the script just strings together a series of cliches. At least the sci-fi thriller element tries to be unique.
You've got mail.
However, outside of aping the goofy opening sequence of Stephen King's coke-fueled fever dream Maximum Overdrive, the story ends up stumbling into that film's incoherence.
Bye-bye, human race.
We're talking global computer apocalypse.
Sorry, guys. Even if you're weepingly nostalgic for 90s music, AOL, and a quote-unquote simpler time before social media, the lack of story depth and likable characters found me rooting for the killer robots.
Think they'll still do graduation?
Y2K gets 2 dial-up modems out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Finally this Friday, overnight millionaire. Yes, Suri Cruise can now dip into her trust fund. What isn't exactly known is how much the 18-year-old daughter of Top Gun actor Tom Cruise and actress Katie Holmes now has in her bank account. But what is known is that Tom Cruise's net worth is believed to be about $600 million. While Suri Cruise's parents are divorced, Katie Holmes was receiving $400,000 per year in child support. As for that trust fund, she can only legally access part of it now and must wait until she's 30 to receive the entire amount. America in the Morning for Friday, December 6th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.